Hello, my name is Apurva Samanto. I welcome you to LearnerBuddy. Let us continue learning user interface of UiPath Studio. Today we will learn the design user interface of UiPath Studio. That means the design ribbon tab of UiPath Studio. So let's get started. First of all, we need to open UiPath Studio. So let me open it. Once we will open UiPath Studio, we will be landed on the home user interface of UiPath Studio. That is the home page of UiPath Studio. From here, we need to open any pre-available UiPath process or UiPath project. That means if we have already built any UiPath project, then we need to open that project through this home user interface of UiPath Studio to go to the design user interface of UiPath Studio. If you have already watched my last video on home user interface of UiPath Studio and its functionalities, then you know how to open any pre-available UiPath project from here. But if you haven't watched my last video on this topic, then you can click on the I button present in this video and you can watch the video to get the better understanding about the home user interface and its functionalities. So let us open any pre-available process or project. To open any pre-available process or project from this home user interface of UiPath Studio, we have many options. Here we can go with this open pin, or we can just provide hotkeys, that is Ctrl plus O, to open any pre-available UiPath project or process. We can also go from this start, then we need to select open a local project. We can open in that way as well. If we have already listed any previously available UiPath process or project in this opened recent tab, then we can just open that particular process from here. So to open any process from this open recent tab, we just need to click this particular process. So let me click this test process that was built by me earlier. So let me open it. Once we will be there on the design user interface, so we can see many functionalities present under this design user interface. But let me first clarify one thing, that as this is a very overview video about the tabs and the functionalities present in the tab, so we will not be going in very detail of all the functionalities present on it. Rather, we will be having an overview about the tab and the functionalities, and we will also not be bothering about whatever the codes we are writing over here. But I will not write any huge code over here. Rather, we will be just having some minor changes in the codes. So now we have landed on the design user interface of UiPath Studio, that is the design ribbon tab of UiPath Studio. If you see, this is called the ribbon that is in blue color, and my cursor is hovering through. Here in this ribbon, we will be having three main tabs. One is home, that we have already discussed about. The second one is design, that we will be having a discussion right now, and the third one is debug, that we will be discussing later. So these are the three main tabs present in this ribbon. Now we will be only focusing on the design user interface and the functionalities present under design user interface. So now let's get started with one by one. First functionality that is present in the very left hand side of design tab, that is new. This is the functionality to create any new UiPath process file or any new UiPath workflow. If we click on the drop down present on this new functionality, then we will be having many more workflow options to create any new workflow. So we are having sequence, flowchart, state machine, form, workflow, coded workflow, that is on preview mode, again coded test case, that is on preview mode, code source file, that is also on preview mode, and global handler. These all are the workflow types we can choose as per our necessity and as per our choice. So that's it. You can go with any of them. Now, the second one, what we can see, that is save button. A save button is required to save any particular workflow that you have selected or all the workflows you have just opened. So let us check. Here we are having one workflow. The name of the workflow is main, and here we have written something. So let me modify something. Here we have a right line, and here the message is hi. Let me modify it. So here let me write hi UiPath. Now we have modified it. If you see here, we are having an asterisk symbol that is saying us that this workflow has been modified and we haven't saved this workflow as of now. So to save it, we are having many options. If you just click on the save button, it will be saved. If you just click on the save as, then we will be having a pop-up to save it with any naming convention you would like to go with. Third one is save all. If we just click on save all, it will be automatically saved. Let us check. If I directly click on the save button, that is CTRL-S, that is the hotkey for it. Right now I am clicking the save button. You can see this main workflow has been saved. Let me just open one more workflow. Let me take a sequence. Here I don't need to just change the naming convention as it is a demo, so we can go with the same name, that is sequence. So let me click on create button. Here we have created one new workflow that is called sequence. So here the same activity we can take, that is right line. Here if we take a right line activity, now let us write something. Here we can write hello UiPath. We have written hello UiPath. Now if you see, this workflow is not saved and we have modified, but it is not saved till now. So let us also just modify this as well. Then let me write hi UiPath, how are you? Now we have modified both the workflows. Now let us just check. If we click on save, it will only save this one. That is the main workflow, not the sequence. Let us check. I am clicking on save and you can see the main workflow has been saved, not the sequence. Now we can just modify it again. Let me remove it and going back with original one. That is hi UI. Now both the workflows have been modified. Now let us go with the second option, that is save as. If I click on save as, we are having a pop-up from File Explorer. It is asking us to choose a file name, but we can give any file name as per our choice, but we will not be going with any naming convention. So we can just click on cancel. Now if we are clicking on save all, that means both the workflows will be saved on a single click. Let us do that. I am clicking on save all. If you see, both the workflows have been saved. Now let us go with the third functionality, that is known as export as. Here we will be having two different options. One is template and the second one is library. So let us understand one by one. What does a template mean? It means that let's suppose you want to develop your process or project based on a certain custom user defined template. Means the template you will be fixing. Then you can just write code as per your wish. You can build your own workflow and you can just mark that workflow as your template to use in the further projects or process. Then this template button will be helpful for you. It will create your this workflow as a template and you can use this template in the next process or projects as per your choice. The second one is library. Let's suppose you are building a huge project and that project code you can't complete in a single workflow. That means inside a single workflow, you can't write each and every code for that particular process or project. Then you need to take help of modular codes or modular workflows. That means you need to write some code in modular ways, and those modules of codes you can just invoke later in your project so that your codes will be more readable, more modular. Then all the modular codes or modular workflows you can just combine as a library. Then this library option will be helpful for you. Fourth functionality under design tab is the run button. If you see, this is a run button. Here we will be having many more options inside this run button only. If we click on this run button, we are having four options including this one, that is a debug file. The second one is run file. The third one is debug, and the fourth one is run. If you just observe it properly, so basically there are two things. One is run and the second one is debug. So what is the main difference between a run and debug? If you are running a process or a project in a run mode, then it will be run in a default mode. You will not be having an option to pause or resume your workflow processing, or you can't have the opportunity to modify your data in the runtime. You can't pause by your own, you can't resume by your own. When all the process will be finished, then only your bot will be stopped. But you will be having all the facilities like pausing, resuming, modifying the data during runtime, all will be there in debug mode. So that is the primary difference between run and debug. So let us understand this first. So now if we just click on deb file, then whatever file you have selected, only that file will be running in debug mode. Means whatever I have mentioned, you will be having the functionalities like pause, like resume, like modifying data. All these functionalities will be there only for the selected workflow. You are going with a debug mode, then bot will be started from main entry point. If you see the project panel, here it is main entry point. So whenever we are running a bot, the primary or the umbrella process or workflow is always the main. Main is primary or umbrella workflow. So if we going with debug only, then it will start the execution from main. So let's suppose if I am coming to here and I am just going with debug file. If I am clicking on debug file, I can see that now it is compiling the activities. If you see, only this sequence is running. If we just see the output, you can see the test process execution started, debug started for file sequence. Here we are running the file from sequence. That's why I told you that once I am selecting one file and I am going with debug file, that means that particular file will be affected or that particular file will be executed. That is why it is mentioned that debug file. That means it is only relevant to that selected file only. But if I go with debug, then the bot will be executed from the entry point, that is the main. Means it will be starting from the main workflow, though I am selecting the sequence. So let us test it. If I am clicking on debug, so you can see the main workflow has been selected by default, not the sequence. So let us test. Here you can see in the output panel, debug started for the project test process, and here if you see the test process execution started, what executed, here we had written hi UiPath. Here it is only executed hi UiPath, no hello UiPath. because hello UiPath was there in sequence. Sequence will not be executed because we are just executing these workflows in debug mode. That means it will be executed from the umbrella workflow, that is main workflow, main entry point. It will be executed from. Now, the same concept goes with run file and run. Run files means here you will not be having the opportunity to pause your bot, to have a breakpoint, to just manipulate the data. Those will not be available, but it will execute only your file whichever you have selected. So let's suppose if I just click on run file on the sequence workflow, then only the sequence workflow will be executed, not main. And again, as like the debug one, if we just click on run, we will not be having the same opportunities like pausing workflow, like resuming, modifying data. All options will not be available for us, but this option will run our workflow from main entry point, that is umbrella workflow, that is main. So let us have test. If we just click on run file, just selecting the sequence, so only the sequence will be executed. So we'll be having an output of hello UiPath. Let us test it. Okay, so now let us check. If you see the sequence, there was written hello UiPath. Here we have only got hello UiPath. And if you see here, execution started for file sequence, and this was the name of it, sequence. Okay, so this is how it will work. But let us test the run as well. If I click on run, it will be going for the main one, not the sequence one. If you see here in the output, if you see execution started for project test process, because we are running it with run option, and that's why it is going with umbrella. That's why it is just taking the name of the exact process, that is test process mentioned over here. Okay, so now if you see here, we are getting hi UiPath as an output. Then if you see here, it is written hi UiPath in main, but in sequence it was hello UiPath. So instead of just hello UiPath, though we had selected sequence, so now we are coming to main and we are just printing hi UiPath in run mode. So this is one more major difference between run and debug. The first difference was we will not be having a chance to modify data, pausing by our wish, resuming by our wish, and we will not be having the opportunity to have a breakpoint in run or this run file or run mode, but we'll be having the opportunities in debug or debug file mode. And the second difference between run and debug is run will be faster in processing than debug. Means if you execute your process in run mode, then it will be executed faster than debug mode. So these are two primary differences between run and debug. So now let us go with the next set of functionalities, that are cut, copy, paste, undo, redo. These options. As we all know, the basic functionalities of cut, copy, paste, undo, redo, these are all again same in UiPath itself. If we click on cut, so let me just select here. If I click on cut, and it will be omitted from the particular page, and it if I need to just paste it over here, so if I just click on paste, if you see the previous right line was cut from this main sequence, and as I have pasted it here in the sequence, so it is only here. If you see, it is just saying hi UiPath right line in the sequence. It is working in the same option like the normal cut copy paste does. Now, if I click on undo, it will be undo. So here, if you see, and if I click on undo again, so here you can see the same right line, what was omitted from main sequence is now back in main sequence because I have clicked on undo. So if I click on redo, that means we will be going again with the same option of pasting the right line in sequence. So let me just test it. So if I click redo, so here you can see this has been omitted from here, and if I click on redo again, it is just pasted here. It's the same way that the normal cut, copy, paste, undo, redo does. Okay. So here if I just copy it, so we miss the copy. So here if I just copy it and paste it here, so let me paste it. So here we pasted. Again, you can just use the same hotkey for cut, copy, paste you do manually in the normal way. All the hotkeys we just generate do, those all will be working in the same way in UiPath. That means for cut we can just use Control plus X, for copy we can use Control plus C, for paste we can just use Control plus V. So those all will be applicable here as well. So let us go with the next functionality, that is manage packages. If you see, we are building UiPath workflows, but to run these workflows smoothly and perfectly, we need many packages and dependencies, because without the packages and dependencies, we can't run UiPath robots smoothly. So that's why we need all the packages. By default, once you will be just creating one new project or one new process, you will be having these dependencies. Those are uipath.excel.activities, uipath.mail.activities, uipath.system.activities, uipath.testing.activities, and uipath.uiautomation.activities. These five dependencies will be by default installed inside your project during you will be creating one new project or new process. If I click on the manage packages option or manage packages functionality, you can see that what are the project dependencies we are using inside our project. The same ones: uipath.excel.activities, uipath.system.activities, uipath.mail.activities, uipath.uiautomation.activities, and uipath.testing.activities. Same activities what are present over here. These all are known as project dependencies. Okay. If we need to install any more package just to run our automation smoothly, then we are having this all packages option. Here we can find any of the packages. So let's suppose I am going to just automate any Microsoft Word file. So we will be just searching for Word packages. So let me search for it. If you see, I just search with Word, and here we are getting uipath.word.activities. So this is the package which will be required during we will be doing any automation with Microsoft Word. Okay, so here we will be having a filter button. Here you can just filter as per your choice. So here you can just go with, if you want to go with a pre-release of any package, and you can just select it, means you can check it. Right now you can see many word activities, but if I want that I need only the activities published by UiPath, then if I just check this checkbox, then you can find that only one activity is present, that is uipath.word.activities, means that is developed by UiPath only. So that's how this UiPath only checkbox will be applied. Okay, so here there are some settings of the packages. Here we have also discussed about the settings of these packages in the home user interface video, so you can just check that once. And here I'm just repeating that here all the local packages present inside your project, those are located in this path. Here is the official packages, here are the marketplace packages, here are the orchestrator host. And if you just go in this area, that is user defined package sources, so here if you want to add any user defined package or any package by your own, you need to just click on this plus icon. You need to just provide the package name and package source, and you can hit the add button. You need to save it. That's it. You will be adding your package here in your project. So that's all. For here, let me cancel it. So let us just check the next functionalities. If we check for manage entities functionalities, this will not be enabled for you until you will be enabling your data service in your orchestrator. So these concepts will be discussed later in some other videos. So as of now, we don't need this manage entity, so we can just keep it. But remember, this will be only enabled once your tenant in UiPath Orchestrator will be having data service enabled. But UiPath Orchestrator and all will be discussed later. So let us leave it. The next functionality is Test Manager. If you click on the drop down, you will be having Test Manager settings as well. This will be applicable for you once you will be wanting to open any test case or to link or unlink the test case in Test Manager. Then your Test Manager will be relevant for you. But as of now, this is having no relevance for you. We can just open this Test Manager settings and we can just go with all the settings as per our choice. As of now, we don't need it, so we will not be having a deep dive inside this Test Manager settings. Rather, we will be skipping this step, but we will be having some details video in some other day. Let us go with the next functionality, that is app or web recorder. This is applicable once you will be doing any UI automation. That means you will be doing any user interaction with any third-party application or any third-party web application. Then you can just use it. It will work like an Excel macro. If you just remember, in Excel macro, whatever steps we do, Excel macro will record each and every step and it will mimic the same thing in the next iteration or next run. Here also, the app or web recorder, if you use, it will capture all the user interaction with any third-party application or web application what you make. That means, let's suppose you are doing any clicking, any typing, that will be recorded by this app or web recorder and it will provide you the sequence of steps to do a meaningful job what you did. So the next option is computer vision. It is actually relevant when we are going to do any computer vision activities. Then you can just use this computer vision functionality to record all these things you do and it will generate a workflow for you. Here, if you see, there is only two recorder. One is app or web recorder and the second one is computer vision. But as per the settings of your UiPath Studio project, you may have find many more. So let me show you. This is the project setting. If you click on here, turn off this modern design experience, then it will be asking you to reload your project. So let me click on this reload button. Here you can see we are getting the same recording button, but we'll be having many more recording options. If you see here, so we are having many more recording options. Previously in modern experience, so we had app or web recorder and we had computer vision. But now we will be having many more like basic, desktop, web, image, native Citrix, and the rest too that were app or web recorder and computer vision. So I will not be going details inside these recording steps. Let us go with the next functionality, that is screen scraping. Screen scraping is useful to capture each and every details present inside your screen. If you see, this is my screen. Here, whatever is written, all can be captured by screen scraping method. There are three different screen scraping method. One is full text, the second one is native, and third one is OCR method. These three methods can be suitable as per our requirement. we can not only just extract the text, rather we can also get any details that is not present inside the screen. Let's suppose we are going with a web page, but that web page contents are not listed all inside the screen, but few contents are also there outside of the screen. That means if we scroll it up, then we'll be having those contents. Then also we can just capture those details through screen scraping, but we need to use different methods like full text to get those things. But I will not be going in screen scraping methods in detail. We'll be having a detailed video on screen scraping later. So let us check the scraping. Here we will be finding two options. One is for data scraping, that if there is any structured data inside a browser or any web application or any third-party application or inside a document, let's suppose for PDF as data table, then we can just capture the structured data from any of the applications or any of the documents. And the second one is for table extraction. It is also quite same like data scraping. Let's suppose there is anything table mentioned, then we can capture the data from that particular table with this table extraction method. Here if you see, for scraping, here we are getting two options. One is data scraping and the second one is table extraction. And if you observed it properly, then you can see here we are not using the modern design experience, because few minutes back we have disabled modern design experience. But now we can see there are two scraping methods. But if we go inside the settings and if we just enable the modern design experience again, then we will be finding a difference. Let it be loaded. Now if we see here, you can see only table extraction is there, no two options, that is table extraction and structured data extraction. Those are not the two options here, only we are having table extraction. So that's the difference between the modern experience and classic experience. That means if you are going with this modern design experience, that is known as modern design. But if you just disable this modern design experience, then it is called classic design experience. So let me close it as of now. The next functionality is user events. If we click on the drop down of user events, we can see that there are three options. One is on click element, the second one is on key press element, and third one is on application event. So let's suppose we are running a workflow, and during the execution of the workflow, if we design our bot in one manner that we want that if a user click on certain element, then we need to do certain activity, then we will be using on click element. If we want that if the user is pressing any keyword or any key from keyboard, then we need to go with some different actions. Or the third one, if any application is having any different event, then we need to perform some different actions. So then these three options will be applicable. Here also we have a change in classic and modern design. If I go the project settings, if I again disable the modern design experience, then let me reload it. If you observed in the modern design for user events, we had three options, and here we are having five options. The first one is on click element. That means if the user click one particular element, then we need to perform certain steps. The second one is on key press element. That means if in certain element space, let's suppose for any editable text area, if a particular user is just typing any certain key, then we need to just do something. Then the third one is on click image. Let's suppose for a particular image, if the user is clicking, then we need to do certain activity. The fourth one is monitor mouse. That means if you just click your mouse, then it will do the things. And the fifth one is the monitor keyboard. That means you don't need to write anything on any particular place. Rather, if you just press one particular key from your keyboard, then the next set of process will be done. So let us have an example. So let me open a new workflow, that is sequence one. It's fine. Okay, so let me just select it and let me take monitor mouse. So if I just click on it, so here it is asking me that what I need to select. So for mouse button, I am selecting the button left. Let me click on OK. And here, if you see, we are just selecting that if the user clicks the mouse button, that is the left button, then what we need to do, let me just again place a right line. Let me write mouse left mouse left button clicked. Okay, so I am writing like this. So here we took the monitor mouse. So now if we run this workflow, let's suppose we are running in debug mode, it's fine. So I have just selected this sequence one, so I can just go with debug file. If we go with debug, as you know, it will be starting from main. So I don't need to go with main, so I need to go with sequence only. So I can just use debug file or run file. So let me go with debug file. If you see the output area, it is saying the test process execution started for sequence 1. Means the sequence 1 has been started. Now let me just press the left button of my mouse. Here I have just pressed. You can see here it has been written mouse left button clicked because we had instructed the robot to write this one. Let me click again. Here you can see again it has written because I have clicked the left button. Let me click again. You can see here it is writing. If I click multiple times, it will be just writing in this way. So let me stop the button. Okay, this is how the user events will be working. Now, let us go with the UI Explorer. UI Explorer is a tool that is embedded in UiPath Studio. The main function of UiPath Explorer is to give us perfect selectors. That means to give us the perfect unique address of a user element. This is relevant or applicable once we will be going with UI automation. That means user interface automation. Let's suppose we are just working with any user interface and we need to click on certain login page. We need to write the user ID and password. Then we need to just take the selector. That means the UI element ID. Then this UI Explorer will be functional. Let me show you. Let me open Chrome. Let me open UI Explorer. Let me maximize it. So now we need to indicate that element. Here, if we need to just write anything in this search Google or type a URL area. So let me select it. You can see we are getting a selector. That means this is the address of this particular UI element. If you see, this is the user area where we need to search for anything in Google. So to get the UI element ID, means the unique address of this particular UI element, that is the search box, we need to use the UI Explorer. Here, if you see now, if I highlight, then we can just see that okay, this is highlighted. That means if we write something, then it will be written in this search box only. So I'll be making a detailed video on UI Explorer. later. As of now, what we have learned that UI Explorer is a separate tool that is embedded in UiPath Studio just to help the UiPath developer to have a proper selector of any UI element during the UI automation. Let us go with the next functionality, that is remove unused. Let's suppose we are building this code. So here in this code, we will be using many variables, argument, many workflow, and many more things. So let's suppose after building the code, variables or arguments are not useful inside the code. Then what we need to do? We don't need to remove one by one variable and argument. Rather, we just can use this functionality, that is remove unused. So let me show you. So here this is a sequence. Here you can see, if we select it and then we can go with this variable. Let me create a variable. So let's suppose I am creating a variable that is naming as variable1, but that is not a standard naming convention. But as this is a demo purpose, so we can just keep the variable naming convention in this way only. Let's suppose this is variable1. So if you see, we haven't used this variable inside this sequence workflow here. So what we need to do, we need to delete it because this is unused. To delete it, we need to click on this variable, and here there is a delete button. But let's suppose we are creating multiple variables, right? We are creating multiple variables. So now if we want to delete all the variables because these variables have not been used inside this workflow, so now if I want to delete these variables, I need to just right click on the variable and I need to click on delete option. But it is very much time consuming for me if I need to click all these variables one by one manually. Rather, what we can do, we can just go to remove unused pane, and here you can see variables option. That means if there is any variable which has not been used inside this sequence workflow, then we can remove all the variables in one go by just clicking on this variables icon. That means we will be deleting all the unused variables. So let us test. Here we can just click on variables, and if you see here, we are getting one pop-up that, are you sure want to remove all unused variables? I need to click on OK. All done. Let me show the variable panel. If you see, there is no variable pending, and we can do the same thing for all the functionalities present over here. We can do the same thing for workflow. We can do the same thing for variable, argument, dependency, any import or any screenshot as well. So as of now, you don't need to remember all these things properly because once you will be learning, so you will be learning one by one. So no need to take any pressure as of now. Now, the next functionality is analyze file. Here, if I click on this drop down, we will be having different options. Analyze file, analyze project, then validate file, validate project, and here we are having the last option, that is workflow analyzer setting. So let us understand the value of each and every function over here. Analyze project. That means it will analyze your workflow file. Let's suppose I am just going with the sequence workflow and I have selected it. If I click on analyze file, it will check all the validation error inside this particular workflow, and it will also analyze the file. Means if I have done any workflow analyzer settings or workflow analyzer rule violation, then it will report that to me. The second option is the analyze project. If I click this one, that means whatever workflows I have created, it will work for all the workflows present inside that particular project. That means it will check for all the workflows that whether each and every workflow has any validation error, then it will report. Again, it will check that if any of the workflows has any workflow analyzer validation error, then it will report. Okay, then the next one is validate files. That means it will check the validation error for any of the workflow. Whatever workflow will be selected, it will work only for that particular workflow. The next one is validate project. That means it will work for all the workflow files present inside the project. Let's suppose as of now we are having three workflows, so it will work for all the three workflows and it will check the validation errors for all the three workflows. The next one is workflow analyzer setting. So this is a bit advanced concept. So here UiPath has its predefined workflow analyzer rules. So here if you see, UiPath has pre-available all the workflow analyzer rules set by UiPath. It's but you can change, modify, enable or disable any of the workflow analyzer rules. So I am not going in detail, but few things like, let's suppose you want to disable any of the workflow analyzer rule, then you need to uncheck this checkbox. That's it. Let's suppose if you want to make this default action from warning to error or info or verbose, you can just select. So there are four different options. The first one is verbose, second one is info, third one is warning, and fourth one is error. Verbose means it's a very detailed level of information. Info is a top level of information that will not be having any deep level of information. It will giving some basic level of information. Warning means this is not an error, but it should be avoided. The fourth one is error. Error means it will be giving you an error pop-up. So let me close this workflow analyzer rule section. So let me close it. Now the next one, export to Excel. Here, this function will be implementing your workflow in Excel. So if you will be just clicking into this Excel, so you will be having a visual impression of this code in Excel format. Let us have a test. So if I click on export to Excel, it will be going to create one Excel file for me. So I can just choose my location. So here I am just choosing desktop. Here I can just rename the file name and it will be saved in Excel format. So let me save it. Okay, the document was saved successfully. So now let us just check. Here is my desktop. If you see, okay, so let us have a check. Let me just maximize all the cells. Okay, here what it is telling, the name of that particular workflow, that is sequence. So here if you see, the name of the workflow is sequence and it is a type of sequence. How we are getting the type, here you can see these are the workflow types, this sequence, and here we are using the sequence. So that's how it is coming, that it the name of the workflow is sequence and in bracket it is saying that the type of this workflow is sequence. Now it is showing private false. This is advanced concept. Private means whatever it will be executed, then it will be logged in verbose level of orchestrator. That means private means false. If we set the private is equal to true, that means whatever it is executing will not be logged into the verbose level of UiPath orchestrator. So here we are using the activities, and here if you see, we are going with the right line, right? What the right line we are using? The right line is high UiPath. Here also the private is false. That means this will be logged into the verbose level of UiPath orchestrator. We have also kept a second right line. So if you see, here also we have written hello UiPath. Here also the private concept that is marked as false. So first text of right line was hi UiPath. The second right line was hello UiPath. We can see the first right line was hi UiPath and the second right line was hello UiPath. This is how we'll be having the visibility of a particular workflow inside an Excel. Now let us go with the very last one, that is publish. If we see, the publish test cases option is disabled because we are not going with any test case. So let us go with this publish option. This option is applicable or useful once we will be just publishing this code into UiPath orchestrator, or we can also take it in locally. So let us have a check. If I click on this publish button, you can see the first option is coming from publish, that is package properties. Here you can give your own name for package properties, so you can just choose as per your wish. Current version that is showing, that is 1.0.0. The current version you can't modify. In the right hand side you can find the new version. Here you can modify the new version. By default the new version will be one version greater than the current version. Here you can see it is 1.0.1. This is a checkbox. If you want to say to your user that this is a pre-release, then you can just select this checkbox. That means this version you are marking as alpha. This is the package icon. Let's suppose during the publishing of this package, if you want to set any logo for this particular package, you can just provide the path of that particular icon. Rather, you can just select from this folder option and you can just choose the file. The next option is project tag. If you want to give any tag, you can write it over here. You can provide any release note in this release notes field. You can also say that in this particular release, so you have launched some new feature, you have solved some bugs, so that all you can just say in this release notes. Now, the second option, that is publish option. Here we are having three options. If we just go with the drop down, so the first option is orchestrator tenant process feed. The second option is orchestrator personal workspace feed, and the third one is custom. The first two will be applicable if you want to publish this package to orchestrator, and the third option, that is custom, will be applicable if you want to publish your package into a local folder. Then only you can choose it. The next thing is you need to provide custom URL, so you can just select a local folder or you can just go with a NuGet feed URL. So just to give a local folder, you need to just go with custom, and here you can just have to select the folder as per your choice. But if you are going with any orchestrator thing, then you will not be having these fields because these will be disabled. So now the third option is certificate signing. Here, if you want to provide any license or certification, then you need to provide the path of the certification file, or you can just select the certification file from here. You just need to select it. And here, if you need to provide any certificate password, then you can just type the password over here. If you want to give any certificate timestamp, then you can provide here, and then you need to just hit on publish, and your package will be published. Either it will be published to orchestrator or it will be published in some local folder as per your choice. So as of now, let me just cancel it. Now, if you want to hide these functionalities, then you are having a minimize ribbon option. So you just need to click on here, and your functionalities will be hidden. Now, if you want to get all these things back, then what you need to do, you need to click on the design tab again, and here you will be having this pin icon. Then here you just need to click on expand the ribbon tab, and your all these functionalities will be visible again. So that's all about design user interface or design ribbon tab of UiPath Studio. Next, we'll be having some knowledge on the debug user interface of UiPath Studio, and at the last, we will be having the general user interface of UiPath Studio. Means we will be checking all the functionalities present in the right hand side of this ribbon, and we will be having all the functionalities present in the left pane, that is called project activity snippet, and we will be also having output, breakpoints, error list, and in the right hand side we will be having different functionalities like the object repository, then properties, then we will be having outline, we'll be having data manager, and we'll be having test explorer, and we will be knowing how to deal with all these functionalities that are present in this general area. So as of now, let me go back to the design tab. So here we have covered all the functionalities present under design tab. That's all for now. Thank you so much for staying with me to learn the design user interface of UiPath. Don't forget to subscribe LearnerBuddy to stay connected with LearnerBuddy and learn together with LearnerBuddy. Thank you.